guy I know, they did bring him in.
He actually tried out before Gary got the gig. In fact, he has a thing on YouTube where he claims that Ed offered him the gig, and then the whole thing went down with Dave on MTV, and all that stuff started falling apart and things along those lines.
Yeah, I don't know what Ed did or didn't do, but I do know that they did try him out. That's the name I was trying to think of.
In terms of the kitchen sink tour that everybody has recently talked about in 2019, as you remember, The Circle had paused their summer tour for a certain portion of the summer of 2019. How far along was that tour for the Van Halen tour, the stadium tour that they were talking about?
Well, I know for a fact that management had contacted Michael and asked him if he was interested, and he said, of course he was. And, he told Sam about it, and Sam said, we'll work around you. But then Edward's health took a turn for the worst, and it didn't get much further. I've never personally talked to Wolfgang about it.
Right.
I don't know Wolfgang very much at all. I've met him, when he was much younger. But I thought it was great that Wolfgang told Edward, let me be the one to call Michael. I've been saying for years and years and years that they should go out and do a tour with all three singers and bring Gary out on the encore. Do a couple songs with Dave, do a couple songs, not half and half, but intersperse them, have them, come out, do 3 songs, then Sam come out and do 3 songs, then Dave come out and do 3 songs. And then the encore, bring Gary out and have all 3 of them finish up the encore. I've been saying that for years. And then Wolfgang, went to Edward, and he thought the same thing, and he told Edward, and Edward said, wow, that's a great idea. And I know Wolfgang wanted to personally call Michael and talk to Michael about it, but management jumped the gun, or at least, I don't know if they jumped the gun, but maybe they told him, well, let us put the feeler out. And so they contacted Michael, and Michael said, yes, I'm interested. But then it was never able to go further because Edward's health took a turn for the worse.
But was Sammy supposed to be part of that tour, or is that just going to be the original Van Halen?
No, it was going to be Sam, Michael, and Gary Sharon.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's why it was called the kitchen sink thing. I guess that was Wolfgang's idea. But no, it was definitely supposed to be Dave, Sam, and Michael.
Well, the reason I ask is because at the time, I remember Sammy was on tour for the space between, and he was saying we're pausing the tour so Michael could go do the reunion, but obviously the reunion never came to be because of Eddie's health.
Now, what Sam said is we will work around it.
Oh, okay.
And they ended up not having to pause the tour because it didn't come about because, like I said, Edward's health took a turn for the worse.
Right.
And, I wasn't around Edward during those years, so I can't really comment and be more specific about it.
No, that's okay.
And not only that, I probably wouldn't because I think that's a private situation.
Right. When did Mike and Sam reconnect after Sam left the band? Do you remember the moment the two of them reconnected?
Well, they never really lost contact. They became pretty close friends when Sam was in the band. So they would call each other pretty often and just, say, hey, how you doing and stuff. When they reconnected musically, I do remember because Sam asked Michael to come down to Cabo. He said, are you guys doing anything? And Michael said, no, nobody's doing anything right now. So Sam said to Michael, why don't you come down and jam? So Michael said, okay. So he did one year, and then the next year I went down too. I called Sam and said, if you put me up, I'll come down and help out. So I started going back to Cabo then, and Michael started to go down and jam all the time. And like I said, years later, that was used as an excuse. Oh, Michael quit the band. He chose Sam over Van Halen. No, he didn't.
Right.
He just liked to play.
Right, sure.
So,
that's fine. Were you at the current pay-per-view taping on the water there in Catalina?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, great. How did that go down?
Oh, it went great, man. It went 10 times better than I thought. That camera crew was great.
Yeah.
And they had a really new, wonderful drone where they did some incredible shots coming in over the water and stuff.
Yeah, we saw it. Was fantastic.
Yeah, it was great. And the only thing that was a drag about it was the morning we were heading over there was the morning that Edward passed away.
I know. That's so horrible.
And I thought it was great that, like, when we did the last song, Eagles Fly, the sun was just starting to go down, and Sam dedicated it to Edward.
Yeah, it was beautiful. It was a beautiful moment. When was the last time you saw Ed? Do you remember?
No, I don't specifically. Probably over 10 years ago. I don't remember exactly. I ran into him in public once, and then one time I had to go up to the studio to get something for Michael, and I saw him. But that was like over 10 years ago.
Wow. Okay. All right. What did you make of Wolf's dedication, his song Distance and the video? And
I thought it was incredibly beautiful. And I think anybody that criticized him, I read some people saying, oh, he's just, trying to feed off of his old man's name. That's a bunch of bullshit. Wolfgang is an extremely talented individual, and he wrote and played everything on that.
Yeah.
And I got to hear a cut off of his record before that from a mutual friend, and I thought it was incredible. I think Wolfgang Van Halen is going to become a major star in rock and roll, and I hope he does. And anybody that would say anything negative about him, they don't know what the fuck they're talking about, and they're taking their Edward thing a little too far to start dissing his son.
Yeah.
I think Wolfgang is an incredible musician. I think he's extremely intelligent, and I'm glad to see he's gone out there and he's doing interviews and whatever, you know. I think people are very impolite and impersonal in how a lot of people have dealt with Edward's passing. I mean, I had a couple people call me up and ask me if I would take them to the funeral, and I go, I don't think there's going to be a funeral, and if there was, I wouldn't be invited to it because the family is very private.
Right, yeah.
And by the way, lose my phone number, you know?
Yeah,
I mean, one guy, I met him one time, and he kept digging around until he finally got my phone number from somebody, and he called me up and said, I'll give you $1,000 if you take me to the funeral.
Oh, my God.
Fuck you. Lose my number, you know?
That's horrible. That's horrible. So,
wow.
Yeah,
that's unbelievable.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
Does that kind of stuff happen regular, like aside from the funeral? Do you get requests from people all the time? Hey, can I meet Mike? Hey, can I meet the band? Hey, can I get this signed?
Oh, yeah, of course. And if I know somebody with Michael, I can always take care of it. With the band, you know, that's different. It depends on who they are and what it's for. If it's for a charity, I will always go out of my way to do it. I have a friend named Keith Mitchell who's a great guy, and he has this wonderful charity every year. And I always try to get stuff for him, not just from Van Halen, but from other people. You know, Sammy always gives us stuff for me to give to him, and Michael and whatever, you know.
In terms of Mike and Sam working in the Circle, tell me what the vibe is like in the Circle and the whole behind the scenes there. It seems like there's such a harmonious, warm vibe. Is that similar to the early days of Van Halen, that kind of family vibe?
It's incredible. It's extremely pleasant scenario on the road. Jason, he is one of the most incredible drummers I've ever seen live. He's always got a laugh and a smile and a joke. Victor, what a phenomenal guitar player. I've known Victor longer than I've known Mike and Sam. I worked for Victor before I ever worked for Van Halen. I worked for Victor when he was in the Busboys. Victor is one of the nicest people you ever meet in your life. The way he duplicates Edward or any other guitar player is just phenomenal. He's an equipment whiz. He's a genius when it comes to equipment, and he's just a phenomenal player, you know. And then, of course, there's that natural rapport that Mike and Sam have, and you put it all together, and it's just we have a great production manager, we have a great crew, and the vibe on the road is very pleasant.
Do you think that Michael and Alex will reconnect and maybe do something?
I really don't see Alex doing anything. You know, Alex really didn't ever want to play with anybody but his brother.
Right.
But I think as far as their friendship, yes, Alex and Michael have always been on friendly terms, and they chat once in a while, and I can't say much more than that, but
right.
I don't see them actually getting together and doing anything musically. If they did, it would be phenomenal.
Right, yeah.
But I can say that in my opinion, I think they'll always be friends, you know?
Right. Did you work with Chickenfoot too?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. How would you describe the vibe with that band?
Actually, one of the best live bands I've ever seen. I mean, you know, Satriani, incredible. Chad, incredible. Mike and Sam. I mean, that band live, man, when they just started playing, I mean, the Circle live is phenomenal, but Chickenfoot was a different animal once again, you know, because there was a different feel to the band. But, yeah, that was one of my favorite things. The 2 records and 2 tours that we did, I love that band so much. I mean, everybody was so friendly. It's funny, when I met Chad, he goes, I've been waiting to meet you for years. I go, what? and Satriani, what a wonderful human being. What an amazingly wonderful, positive man, you know?
That's the truth. That's the truth. Why do you think that band didn't continue to do more going forward?
I don't know. I can't really say. I really think the major thing was the hurdle of everybody's scheduling. You know, Chad with the Chili Peppers and Joe with his solo career and Mike and Sam, it was just such a hard thing to get all the ducks lined up in a row, you know?
One thing that the Van Halen fans were a little disappointed about with OU812, that is there's not enough Mike on the record. Why do you think the bass is so low on that record?
Well, because the production, I think that Edward started to take over a lot more of the production, and he had a different concept. You know, growing up playing with his brother, he had a different concept than Templeman did. So, I mean, I think that is what it is. But I've heard a lot of people complain. I was reading a thing yesterday about somebody complaining about the production on OU812. They said that the vocals weren't well done and you could hardly hear the bass, which is true. The more records went on, the less you could hear of Michael's bass, you know? I don't know. It's, like I said, a change in production over the years, and that's why I think Ted Templeman is so amazing, you know?
Sure.
Did Mike ever have questions or issues with that change in production, or he was just like, Well, whatever. That's what the fans want. So.
Well, he wasn't happy about it, but Michael always took the high road. He tried to be a team player, but, obviously there was a big difference in the sound, and he wasn't happy about it, but he wasn't going to cause a problem over it.
Whatever happened to Don Landy?
I don't know, but he's a phenomenal engineer. I mean, you want to get background on Don Landy, read Ted Templeman's book.
Yeah.
But I don't know what happened to him. I haven't seen him in years.
Did you keep in touch with Dave through the years while he was going solo?
I went to a couple of his shows, and I would run into him on occasion. I never had a problem with Dave. I really like Dave. Dave's a phenomenon, in my opinion. You talk about a guy who knew how to do interviews and stuff. But I haven't seen him in probably over a decade.
What is Dave like to work with as a person behind the scenes? Obviously, we know him on stage. He's a wild front man. He's incredible. He's so entertaining and funny. What is he like to work with?
I always thought he was fine. I never had a problem with him. I mean, I saw Dave where he had his days where he could, where he wanted to steer clear of him. That's true of anybody.
Yeah.
But I always got along with him great. Never a problem.
One thing that Michael has as a reputation, in addition for being a great bass player and a great vocalist, is obviously he has this incredible reputation as being such a nice guy, such an easygoing guy, such a kind man. What do you think keeps his demeanor up so much? Like you said, he always takes the high road. Even if he's slighted in certain areas or reduced in certain areas, he always takes the high road. Where does all that positivity stem from?
Well, that's who he is. That's how he was raised, and that's how he was brought up. He's got 4 brothers and sisters. Their family is always really close-knit family, and that's just who he is and how he was raised,
Absolutely. Are you involved with the hot sauce, too, or no?
Well, I was involved in when we were first starting to do it. I was encouraging Michael to make his own hot sauce and do it. But now, it's manufactured and distributed. And no, I don't really have much more involvement anymore. At the beginning, I did.
And what was it like to work for Noel Monk?
I'm going to pass on that one.
Okay, no problem.
So,
no problem.
Did you read his book?
Yes, I did.
Any thoughts on the book?
I was there, and a lot of it was exaggerated or untrue.
Okay.
In so much as I think Noel was going out of his way to try to make himself look better years later. Yes, I read the book, and I disagree with a lot of it.
Okay, that's cool. In terms of being on the road with VH and in terms of interacting with the fans, every time you said you used to stay at the same hotels, how would the fans find out where the band was staying back before there was the internet and social media and all that kinds of stuff? Would you encounter a lot of them at the hotels?
I have no idea how they would find out, but they would. And once they found out, there was like an underground network where they would let each other know. But yeah, there were always fans hanging out at the hotel. Always.
Wow.
From the day I started with the band to even now, there's always some hardcore, people standing around wherever we go with records, Matt Sorum, he has a great charity to help get music back in schools. And a couple of years ago, he did a thing with a big jam show. They were honoring Sammy for that particular thing. And after the end of it, Michael goes, hey, walk soon me out to the car. I said, okay. We get outside, and there's like 20 kids standing there with Van Halen records,
Wow.
And one eBay guy, that was when I made it on TMZ.
Yeah.
There was this guy, we ran into him at NAMM, and he had like 8 pick guards with him. And he goes, hey, Michael, can you sign these? He goes, you don't have to personalize, just sign your name. And I said, he's not going to do that. Yeah. And I said to Michael, don't even sign one of them. And the kid goes, who the fuck are you? What's your problem? I said, your name is eBay. And I said, we don't do that. That's why a lot of times I would tell Michael at NAMM, don't sign a guitar. Most of the time it's going directly to eBay. If it's a special circumstance and I know the person's not going to sell it, that's different. But this same kid I was talking about, he showed up outside the theater when we did that benefit for Matt Sorum that I was talking about. And there he is again with 8 of these things. And I said, get out of here. And the kid goes, at NAMM, he started swearing at me, and he said, who the hell are you, and fuck you and all this. So I said, I'm the guy that's about to get you thrown out. And he goes, you can't do that. And I called a couple security guys over. I said, take this guy and throw him out. He's obviously got stuff for eBay. And NAMM tries to discourage that, People showing up to try to get rock stars to sign 20 objects that they can go and sell,
Absolutely.
So the kid goes, it's against the law. You can't throw me out. And they said, yes, we can. You're violating our code of conduct and you're violating our rules. And they threw him out and took his NAMM badge. So same kid showed up at that Matt Sorum, and he approaches Michael, and I go, get out of here right now. Once again, he's got like 8 pick guards he wants Michael to sign. And he started swearing at me, and TMZ was filming it, and they spent more time showing that than they did Michael. But,
Wow.
they started out asking Michael some questions, and this kid came up, started interrupting him. And so, once again, I called a couple security guys, and they pulled him away,
Absolutely. What are some of the craziest mishaps you've had on stage working with Van Halen, or anything that you could share with the fans from behind the scenes? What are some crazy things that you've worked through?
The most famous story that I always tell was at the US Festival. I mean, here there's 500,000 kids out there or close to it. You know, Michael's doing a solo, and the only time Michael would ever use a guitar